Hi, good afternoon. My name is Parminder Randhawa. I'm a teacher at the San Diego Early Middle College High School here in San Diego, and I am very excited to be collaborating with KIS. So hello to all the KIS students out there, and a special hello to Albert, who sent me the questions and is doing this project along with some other peers for his journalism class. Also a special hello to Miss Boyle. I miss you. And so thank you for setting this up. I will just give a little bit of background in terms of my experience and then answer the questions that were given to me. I did admissions work. I was the assistant director of college admissions at an Ivy League school about 6 years ago. And so the information that I have is a little dated. So if you have admissions officers coming there speaking to you, or if you have any interaction and the information you get is different, then I would trust that as more current information. And what I know is really just specific to that one Ivy League institution, and I can't really speak for colleges and universities in other parts of the world or other types of institutions in the U.S. But I can speak to what was true for me and our admissions committee for the 2 years that I was there. So in that process, admissions officers read literally hundreds and hundreds of applications each year. I think we spent most of the fall on the road recruiting students, and then a good portion towards the end reading early admissions applications and making decisions on those, and then the winter was basically spent reading lots of applications with, personal essays, recommendations, so on and so forth. So one thing you want to take into consideration is that the admissions officer who will be reading your application will have lots of other applications that he or she is reading, so you want to make the process as easy on them as possible by making sure you have everything in, you have it in on time, and that it's all orderly and intact, just to make the process easier. And if you have opportunities to make personal contact with the admissions officer that's responsible for your region of the world, that would be a great idea, because if they know your name and they know how interested you are, the application has the potential to stand out a little bit. I was asked, what is the most important part of an application out of GPA, SAT scores, extracurricular activities, essays, recommendations, etc.? And this is really an impossible question to answer. For us, the whole application in its entirety is what we looked at. Each component is important, so it's impossible to say that this component is more important than the other. And each applicant is looked at individually, so depending on what you are bringing to the school community in terms of interest, talent, skills, background, each application is really reviewed by itself. And so obviously there are certain criteria. They're generally speaking average GPAs or SAT scores or whatever that are within an acceptable range. And so there will be exceptions below that range, but you want to think about the schools that you're applying to. Which one are your reach schools? Which one are, sort of solid schools that you think you have a good shot at? And which ones are your safety schools? You want to have, those three tiers in terms within the set of schools that you're applying to. And every component is important. I wouldn't be able to pick out one that stands out more than the other. Because you are in high school, I think it is important to do your best to have the best GPA possible, especially once you get into your sophomore, junior, senior year. We were always willing to overlook sort of blips on a transcript freshman year, especially if you showed progress in the other 3 years, and the junior year is very critical because that's the last year that we have full data on before the student is applying for college. In terms of SAT scores, I think this completely depends on the school that you're applying to, but they were very important at the school that I was at. And again, I said there can be a broad range depending on, what the student wants to study. Say, for example, somebody wanted to go in and major in biochemistry. Well, the math and the science SAT 2s and things would be looked at more closely than perhaps, the English. Not that that wouldn't be important, but that we look at the scores in the context of what the student would be wanting to study and what the student would be contributing to the community. In terms of the essays, this was, besides the recommendations, this was probably my favorite part of the application to read. And there is no recipe, there isn't no one kind of essay that stands out, but for me, the essays that I found to be most enjoyable were the ones that were sincere, where the students showed passion for something, sincere care about something, just genuine. They could be funny, they could be serious, they could be emotional, they could be dry. I mean, it really depended on what the student was trying to accomplish and what the subject was. So there isn't this must, submit a funny essay or must submit a, very personal kind of essay about struggles in life or anything. I think readers can sense the sincerity and the genuineness in an essay, and so the most important thing, I think, is to be yourself and to share as openly and honestly as you can about who you are, because the admissions officer is trying to get a picture of who you are when he or she is reading the application. Do have someone take a look at it and help you revise and edit and proofread it, but I wouldn't have a gazillion people taking a look at it and telling you what to write. It becomes sort of a mishmash if you have, I think, too much input from different individuals. So have it be you. Have it be a reflection of who you are. And whatever style of writing is your strength, I would go with that for the essay. But I think the most important thing is they're trying to get to know who you are in that piece of the application. And along with that come the recommendations as the other very personal piece of the application. And I would ask individuals to write recommendations not based on how much you like that individual and how great you think he or she is, but based on what kind of recommendation he or she is going to write for you. So you want to ask the individuals who are going to write the best recommendation possible for you. So you really want to think about, who has the time and the motivation to do that, who will really knows you very well and will be able to speak to not just your academic, how you did in the class, but who you are as a person. So really think about who's going to, put in the most time and effort in getting across to the admissions committee who you are and how they know you, and help you to stand out in the application. The other part that was asked about are the extracurricular activities. Again, no real recipe. I think a well-rounded student, which is a phrase that's often used, it's really so dependent on each individual student and what they do. If someone is really passionate about one thing and that's where they spend a lot of their time, and they have attained a certain level of mastery or expertise, then that's wonderful. If someone else is interested in a variety of things and they've explored those different things and have really taken initiative, that's great too. So I think it is important to follow your passions and be involved and engaged and show that you're taking initiative and you care about things, and that you can be a leader if that's who you are, but there isn't really any real recipe.